Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. And today we are doing a review of Scream 6. And it's mostly my review, but Marco will chime in when he decides he wants to, which is a lot.
That's because I have to help you so that
Yeah. And that's fine because I don't really know a lot to say about this movie, and I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah, you do.
No,
because
I don't. The first, if you say the movie, you say 2/3 of it was pretty good as a horror movie, and I was glad about that. Because I'm really getting sick of seeing these franchise movies being so terrible. Because the last one, number 5, was so bad. I mean, I just wanted to put it out of its misery. And this movie was pretty good, except for the last maybe 30 minutes of it, which was, I would say, convoluted, confusing, almost like they weren't giving any direction. They were kind of all making it up. And to what would be the obvious, get away from the killer, parentheses, S parentheses.
Well, the funniest part was when, this is our second attempt at shooting this video. And in the first video, you started off by saying you really love the movie because they have characters from the other ones. And it's like, you're basically saying it's a good thing that the sequel is a sequel.
Well, I get tired of these franchises pretending that other movies in the franchise never happened.
They do that now. That's a modern thing.
Well, that's ridiculous.
Which they were even defending last movie, where they were talking about requels.
Requels.
Yeah. Because
I kind of remember that, yeah.
This is the timeline. First they did Halloween 2018, and they made this thing up where they said that they were going to ignore all the sequels and pretend like they didn't exist because they're not good enough for some reason. And then at the same time, though, they stole all these things from the sequels.
Which is ridiculous.
Basically, the entire Halloween trilogy was like an amalgamation of other movies. And so what they had to do is they had to make Scream 5 where they would come up with this bullshit term called a requel, where it's a remake of sequels or something, like just some stupid shit like that. And it was like their justification for Halloween 2018 and all those terrible movies.
And Marco's saying this because he says the same company made both. Okay?
And it's pretty interesting that they made Scream 6 because I felt like it was a much different movie, and 3/4 of it felt like a really good movie that I would say is one of the best horror movies from the past couple of years. So it was weird how they were able to do that. Like, even though the movie had problems, and Safi, she's staring at a couple of problems right now. Like, Safi, what was the first thing after you got out of the theater to see the movie? What was the first what was the first thing that you said about the movie?
Well, they just kept showing. There's a few main characters, and of course Gail Weathers. You know who that is, the newspaper lady, or TV lady, I should say. She's in it too. And she doesn't have a real big part, but she kind of is a steady person who pops in every so often and actually has to run away from the killer and does get injured. And but anyway, they have these two girls, and one of them, and I'm sorry I don't remember her name, but she was on Saturday Night Live this past weekend. She hosted. She's only like 19 or 20. But she's the young sister. And then you have the older sister. I have no idea how much older she's supposed to be, but I think she is significantly, I would say probably at least 5 years in real life. She is older.
Really?
That they just kept showing their faces. They
Really?
kept zeroing in on their faces over and over and over, like when they were mad, when they were scared, when they were sad, when they were worried. I mean, it was like they were proving to everybody that they were qualified to be in the movie because they could act and make these different faces according to the emotion that they would be feeling attached to whatever scene they were doing.
Yeah, so
And I'm
Safi.
like, what the hell is this? And like, they really don't want you to forget these two actresses. That one young one that I just said hosted SNL, she plays Wednesday on that show on Netflix. Okay? So, I mean, she's out there. And the other one, I don't know. I guess she's done a bunch of stuff too. But I mean, they don't want you to forget them. And they just kept focusing on that. And there were other characters. I guess they were just
like, you're just saying, like, all they do is just show close-ups of their faces.
Yes,
the whole
that's what
movie.
it seemed like they did.
Well,
all the time.
It seems like you're a little obsessed.
The young one would be mad at the older sister, or she'd be mad at some of the other people. The older sister would be mad. It's just so ridiculous. I just, like, my God, why are you shoving these people down our throats? And,
God, Safi.
But it's still, to be fair, I thought the movie was pretty good, except to the last part, the last 30 minutes.
What I did to annoy you was I took 6 pictures of their faces and I put them as the screensaver on my computer.
Yeah, so here I am. I'm going through it again.
She's staring at their faces over and over again. What do you think about that, Safi? In fact, how would you rate their faces on a scale of 1 to 10?
They have pretty faces.
Really?
The older one in the pictures that you have, she almost looks like she's insane.
Really?
The way they have her, she's all sweaty and she has this goofy look. Then they have the young one and she's got her mad face on. This is where she's hanging over the edge of a stairwell, high above the floor, and there's a killer is below, and
well, let's not get there yet.
Well, I know that, but I mean, that's the face.
You're avoiding.
They're all faces of emotion. Like, I don't know what emotion this would be like.
Let's rate their faces.
What is that person doing?
How would you rank?
That's the insane face.
How would you rank these
Marco,
faces?
That's dumb, and that's not waste
How
of time.
would you rate them? The scale from 1 to 10. Let's go. The older sister.
I don't know.
What do you give her face? Because
I don't know
like,
what to do with that. Don't tell me to do that.
You don't really care about ghost face. You care about their faces.
I've seen Ghost Face for years. I've seen him through 6.
That is kind of the main character.
That's
of the series.
right, and it was creative.
It's the
killer.
Those
the original Ghost Face mask. It's worth a lot of money. So any of you have one of those, or you come across one, if you know it's the original one, you might be able to get a lot of money for it on eBay.
Well, Safi, I think that you could get a lot of money if you just rated their faces.
No, I'm not going to do that.
On a scale of 1
All
to 10.
All I know is they kept showing their faces. I mean, we have all these other characters. In fact, I just wanted to tell everybody that the person who played the father...
What father?
The father of the...
What father?
Of the
There's
killer.
a lot of fathers in a movie.
Well, he's a detective or something. He wears a badge on his belt. He was in a Hallmark movie that Marco watched, and he didn't even recognize him.
Yeah, apparently he was on the Christmas train.
Oh, was it called the Christmas? No, I thought it was called, something about the train.
The Christmas
he was
train.
And he played the male romantic lead. Okay, and I think he played a journalist. He was a journalist. But anyway, so Marco has seen him before, and he didn't remember that. I had to tell him. And because he's actually aged a little bit. I could tell when they're doing these scenes, they're running to catch up with the killer.
He has different hair.
Yeah, he dyed his hair it probably had been going great for a long time. And he dyed his hair for that movie.
I can't remember what those people looked like in the Christmas train. Like,
I do.
The only person I remember is like probably Joan Cusack, because
Yeah.
we've seen her a lot in other movies.
Yeah.
But like they didn't really show close-ups of the faces of the people over and over and over again, like in
this
Scream
one.
6.
I mean, you'll remember if you see this movie. Besides being entertained, you might be a little bit dismayed. I'll put because of the confusion regarding the last 30 minutes. But other than that, if you see this movie, you'll remember these girls' faces.
Well, I think that you remember them, and that's why you want to rank them on a scale of 1 to 10.
If you don't stop it, Marco, I'm
Do it,
not going to
Safi.
rank their fucking faces.
Do it. No, rate them.
Rate them?
Yeah.
I told you,
Let's
I
go.
thought they all good. They all convey an emotion of what's going on. I don't know. The older girl has an insane face, and then this one, she has kind of like they put some kind of red light behind her, and it's dark out.
Oh.
That's
I've never seen red light in a movie before.
To me, that reminds me of Terminator, a Terminator movie.
Terminator girl. So you're saying they're both 10s? Is that what you're saying?
Is that what you're wanting me to do? Well, this girl needs her hair trimmed.
Their faces.
I don't know what she did.
Because, like, you just said that's the whole movie, and so rate their faces, because that's the whole movie.
That's why they kept their camera on them.
Really?
They were madly in love with them or something.
I think you are.
Okay, that's it. I'm not going to continue this review. Marco's going to act like a dip, and I have to make dinner pretty soon. Either we finish the review, or he PS's the people listening to this tape if they even want to listen to it by now. But anyway, you'll enjoy it. There's lots of scares. And I don't want to reveal about the killer.
Yeah, we will. The review's far from over, Safi. I mean, what do you think? We're just going to do like a little 5-minute video.
Well, what do we need to say about it?
Well, I could talk about tons of things. Like, for instance, I think it's really funny because ever since I was a kid, I was saying that the Scream mask should look like this. In the movie, they actually age the mask and they have it look like cracked and it looks older and it looks like it has like a creepier look. And it's funny because that's what I always thought the mask should have looked like. So
it shouldn't look brand new in every movie. Yeah, that's true.
Well, it's different masks, but I thought it would be so much cooler to vary it up instead of, you don't have to worry about with Michael Myers how in every movie his mask is different and it looks different. In every Scream movie, it always looks the same, so a little tiny variation is just, make it look older, make it look aged and cracked up, and I thought that was really cool. So that was another highlight of the movie. And another thing we could talk about is the core 4. Because the characters, nobody even remembers the characters from Scream 5.
Because it was such a terrible movie. It was really the worst. In fact, I just wanted to forget about watching it.
I would never watch it again.
No,
ever.
Me neither.
I mean, ever.
And so to help people who were like us, who don't want to ever see it again, didn't like it.
They had to call these certain characters the core 4. And they kept on saying it over and over and over again.
And it was these 2 girls.
It was pretty funny.
And a boy and another girl, African American girl, right?
Yes.
And who had extremely short hair. And
well, it's funny because, Safi, you suffer from delusions of grandeur sometimes.
What are you talking about?
And it's like, because you can't even remember that girl had like this long, poofy hair in the last one.
Well, see,
like
I told you, I don't remember
5,
the last movie.
They gave her like an 80s style haircut. And,
oh my God.
And it looked terrible and it made her look like really like awful. and so
Maybe it was a wig.
It was a good thing that they decided to like give her a different style, because it was an improvement on the character. But you really didn't like her. Like you hated how the whole movie, female Randy, she just kept on like raising her arms and making faces at people, and you said like you didn't like her, but I thought she was better than the last movie.
Well, she may have been. I don't know, but she. The thing is, you have to give her a pass in a certain way, because her partner, she was gay, I think, and her partner or best friend or something was murdered, and she was very upset. So you have to give her that she's just not trusting anybody. She's upset, so she doesn't want to be. She's like being shitty to everybody. She has a very bad attitude, and
that's not what it came off like. It came off like it was a character quirk, and what was really weird was the fact that she really didn't care that her girlfriend got killed. Like she really didn't have much of a reaction afterwards.
Well, that's true. I was just giving her a pass for that happening, and that she would be, but you're right about that.
They just sort of moved on from that. Like they didn't really mourn the deaths very much.
No.
Which I guess they didn't really have much time, since
they were moving right along, actually.
I think in the opening, like 20 minutes, they're already being chased by the killer. So like they don't really have much time to well, she kind of does though, because they have like this whole thing where she gets stabbed on the subway, and then she's in the hospital, I guess, and then
they don't show it.
The very next day she's just up and running, and she's like back to business as usual.
Like she was never hurt.
Yeah.
And that just isn't normal. That isn't real. But I'm just whatever. It just goes to
really?
Like the first 2/3 of the movie were pretty good. I think you'll like it. And when you get to the end, though, which is like the last 30 minutes or so, it becomes kind of a mess. And I don't know what to say, because I don't know how much to give away. I don't know what to do.
Everything.
Oh.
Well, you really. I guess I'll have to lead the review, since you're kind of acting like you just had a lobotomy.
Spoil it for anybody.
Like you just had a lobotomy.
I think it's a big spoiler.
Did you just have a lobotomy, Safi?
There's a huge spoiler.
Does Nurse Ratched take care of you? Well, because I've already done a spoiler review.
Oh,
and this video is going to be called Spoiler Review Part 2.
Oh.
So it's like, if it wasn't, then I would have mentioned that beforehand.
Okay. Well, the problem with the movie, like I said, the first 2/3 are good. You get to the last third. Now, what is it that you expect about this movie? What do you expect about the killer? I mean, we have seen all kinds. We've seen a mother killer. We've seen 2 buddy killers, like in the first movie.
From the opening of this movie, I expected the killer to be somebody completely new who wasn't related to anyone.
Right.
And he was like a fully original character who had his own motives, and he was, somebody interesting, instead of
what
the usual.
Revealed.
Which is, in this case, the ultimate victim blaming, where they're like, the killer from last movie, his family, they all became killers too.
And which is unbelievable. They all became crazy because their relative was the killer in the last movie, so therefore they couldn't take it that that person was found guilty, that he was guilty.
Safi, he got killed.
Well, I know that, but I mean, what is it that made them crazy? All 3 of them.
Yeah, 3
there are
people.
3 killers.
A sister, a brother, the father. They're all crazy because of part 5, which I think is stupid as shit. I think it's a cop out, and it's really dumb.
I didn't care for it, and it was confusing. And they did, and the thing is, the father and the girl killers, they're kind of about the same height. I don't know if the girl's like a red-haired girl, and that doesn't make a difference because they all wear that mask, so nobody, and the robe. But she could be a little taller, but still they're about the same size. But the brother is like 6'5". He
Really?
is tall,
Really?
and nobody has any suspicion. I don't know.
What?
I'm pretty sure all of these.
What do you mean?
Would you please stop?
What?
All of these victims or possible victims coming up, they've seen all the killers. And they could tell, if they've seen all of them, sure, they're going to get confused and think those two are the one. But then this tall guy dresses up, and he is completely different than the others, and they don't remember that one of them is really, really tall.
Yeah.
Or that the killer, I mean, just if they think it's just one killer, that the killer's really, really tall, but then they think, well, I just saw the killer yesterday, and they're shorter than that. So they would think, oh my God, maybe there's 2 killers. And it never seems to come up. I don't think anybody ever suspects
Another
that there's
thing.
multiple killers.
Well,
Even us.
well,
I didn't suspect it.
well, no, I thought it would just be one.
Yeah.
But there was suspicion from people that there would be a cult of people who worshipped the killer from the first movie or something, and they thought it would be like 10 people, and they would all be just random people, which I thought that sounds like a better idea than this.
Yeah.
What I
does.
think, and I just realized, first off, in all the other movies except for one of them, there's always multiple killers. So it was pretty strange that when female Randy gave her little speech, she fails to even say, like, there's obviously one killer, but what about the other killers? Is there 2 or 3 or 4 or 5? Like, how many killers are there? It's a franchise, and so they got to raise the stakes every movie, and so there's obviously going to be more than 2 killers, and so who are they? And who that? All she does is just say, oh, there's just one killer. It's probably that one guy because I have a personal vendetta against him, and so that's what she did, and I thought it was really weird.
She suspects the tall guy, but not because he's tall. Just because, I don't know why she suspects him, because, since there's multiple killers, he's been with them every time somebody got killed or attacked, and it was somebody else. So he was there with them, so he couldn't have been the killer, right?
For the most part, I mean, there were times where he was the one attacking them.
Oh, of course. And he had a mean look without his mask, too. And on the subway, remember, he had kind of a mean look on him.
Well, I couldn't blame him because, like, the way she was treating him, it's like she was egging him on, like, the whole movie.
It was like Halloween night, and they're on the subway. This is actually my favorite part.
Yeah, you love the subway just because of costumes that you saw.
All of these people, they had on every mask of every movie killer known to mankind. And even when they would go to a stop and they looked out the window, they had Children of the Corn characters walking the streets. And I just thought it was great because personally we have looked for masks to buy, and they were very expensive. So all these masks, they were at least $50 a piece.
Well, Safi, you did buy a Chucky mask last year, and then you never wore it.
That's right. I forgot all about that.
Yeah, I know, because you didn't wear it.
That's right. Halloween
funny.
was a bad Halloween.
Yeah, it was
It wasn't the Halloween we were expecting, that's for sure. But anyway, he doesn't. The killer, one of the killers, the tall boy, who is very tough. He isn't wearing a mask on this. He's with her, but she wants to stay away from him.
Yeah,
and he'll look at her.
She's in danger and she's the only one on this packed subway, and
with nothing. She's not wearing a costume at all.
She doesn't want to be near the only other person who knows her and can possibly help her because she suspects him. And it's really queer because even if he is the bad guy, it's like he's not going to do anything to her in a packed subway.
And he's not wearing a mask, so he would be known for him, the person, and he's very identifiable. He has curly hair, it's like reddish, he's tall. I mean, he would be very identifiable and easy for somebody to talk to a sketch artist and say this, this, and this. And also on the train, there were multiple people wearing ghost face masks.
Which was really cool.
Yeah, and it added to the suspense.
Yeah, it was pretty suspenseful. It was very reminiscent of Arkham Knight, the video game, where they had this sequence and you play as the Joker, and it's like the Joker having a nightmare, and he's in a room with all these Batman statues, and all of them like start breaking, and then all of a sudden Batman appears right in front of the Joker, and he scares him and kills him. And that's what it kind of reminded me of. But what's funny is about the killer. So you think the subway part is your favorite part?
Yeah, it is.
I thought the best part was the part with the convenience store, because I thought it was really cool seeing Ghostface with a gun.
Yeah, that was different.
It was pretty scary.
Yeah.
And I thought if that sequence was a little bit more extended, it could have been even scarier.
And who do you think that was? Which one? You think that was the father because he knew how to do a gun, or was it the tall boy?
I think it was the tall boy.
Well, okay.
So that was like the standout part for me. But what's funny about the killers is the fact that the people who did this movie, they did that Ready or Not movie. And what was Ready or Not about? Safi.
Was that the like the two people get married and all the family?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's another.
That was an interesting movie. It wasn't very good, but it was interesting.
It was terrible. That was another movie about what? A killer family.
Yeah, that was a whole family.
I guess I should have deciphered that because the people who did Ready or Not did this movie, that they would make the killers a killer family. Which I think is kind of queer because are they going to do that every time they do a horror movie?
Really?
So I thought that was weak. Yeah. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Safi.
I didn't remember that right away, but I did see the movie. It wasn't that great, but it was an interesting concept, and
it was a great concept. But it was a terrible execution.
Same premise though, family killers.
Yeah.
So So anyway, that was my favorite, and that was actually almost leading up to the final 30 minutes. That scene on the subway. That
was the last part before the final 30 minutes. Like that was the climax of the good part of the movie. You know,
right.
the whole like first hour and 20 minutes.
You would have these ghosts. She was standing by herself, and the boy who she kept shrugging her shoulders like, "Stop looking at me," you know. Leave me alone.
She didn't like the fact that he was concerned for her well-being. And
he was standing way over on the other side of, like, the what was between him was the entrance exit doors. And so he was on the other side. And so you saw all these ghost faces on the train. And because they had even said, I think in the movie, like as part of the news brief, that those ghost faces were sold out. So multiple people were wearing. So every time one would go by her or come close to her, she would start freaking out because, well, that person could be the killer. But of course, they were all just people dressed up as Ghostface. So he was looking what's going on. Like, she's an idiot, you know. I'm the killer, but I just don't. I'm not doing.
Well, he was one of the
now.
killers, and
Yeah.
I guess the girl was the
I'm
one.
one of the killers.
The girl was the one who was sitting there, and I think he was standing right next to her. Like, he was standing right next to his sister while she was sitting there. And I thought that was pretty cool, too. Like, there's that one ghost face, and he's just sitting there, and he's, like, looking down at the ground. And it's like, that's the one you have to be worried about. Because all the other ones, they're standing up, and they don't care. But you have one, and they just, he just stood out like a sore thumb. And it was clearly, like, probably the killer. And that was another thing, though, is because the weirdo boyfriend, and that's another thing, Safi.
What?
You're in the middle of a mystery, an enigma, and this girl here that you like to look at her face all the time for some reason. She is sleeping with this, like, random guy who nobody knows anything about. He could be anybody from anywhere who does anything.
Killer.
And
but he's not, because he's been there when the killers come around.
She fails to tell anybody, and then you have this thing in the subway where he like pulls them apart and separates them, which would lead you to think that he was a killer and that he was purposefully separating them so that they could target the next victim, which would be the loudmouth girl who hates everyone except for, I don't know,
yeah. She really gets mad at everybody.
But that guy separated everyone, and so it would have led you to believe that, maybe he is one of the killers. Like, he really wasn't a very good character at all. I mean, he was like, people talk about in these past movies where you have like a one-dimensional love interest character. He was the definition of a one-dimensional love interest character.
Yeah.
He was terrible.
Yeah, that's what they would do too. It was almost like being on a merry-go-round. They would go around, and like the young girl would, I guess she was the core four guy. They were kind of extra best friends or something, and then so you think, oh, well, maybe it's him. And then this boy that that Marco's talking about, they look at him, and you can tell they're like we're going around. Then you have Gail Weathers, and she doesn't live there, and she was visiting her friend who has this, I don't know what, like $1 million suite in the middle of New York City where you can look over the skyline, and I mean that would be, I know that it's expensive. I mean, just what I've heard.
It would be it's so expensive. It wouldn't just be expensive to have the place. It would be expensive to film at the place.
Yeah.
Like to be able to film there.
And
so
that was so they think, oh my God, it's her boyfriend, because I guess they are together or something, and so she's staying there. I say, oh my God, it must be him. So they go to him, and I just want to say they're never going to suspect, or they never suspect the red-haired girl, the sister. We just said it was a family. It's
who
a brother,
dies
sister. Because she died.
She supposedly died.
They heard the noises that were made, like she was being stabbed in the next room. And they all get up, and she's there, and there's blood everywhere. And so there was no reason not to assume she was dead. Sorry.
Well, I was able to figure out, first off, I thought throughout the entire movie that the old detective was a killer, just because he had a look to him. He was a character who, he
kind of stuck out.
Yeah, like, I really thought it was pretty obvious that he would be a killer. And then with the red-haired girl, they had had this thing where somebody took all the knives out of the knife block thing so that they couldn't defend themselves. And I thought, by doing process of elimination, maybe that red-haired girl is the killer and she faked her death. So it was kind of easy for me to figure out, but I never would have figured out that, oh, they're all family. And they decided that as a family, they should become killers. Like, that's not very good parenting. In fact, she even says that at one point.
And you gotta wonder, too. I know they're crazy, so maybe you just say that's the explanation, but what were they doing? I mean, were they just going to kill everybody that they know from the last movie, and then they would just move on and pretend like nothing ever happened, and if that was the end of the story?
It was about getting revenge for the death of the guy from the last movie. You know,
revenge.
The trash killer, the forgettable trash killer.
Yeah.
One of the two.
Yeah. Okay. I do say revenge. So I just think it's stupid.
Which is weird because even if they wanted revenge, like, all they'd have to do to get revenge is just pretend that they're her friend and then just kind of lure her to the next Ghostface killer and then just kind of run away while the Ghostface killer kills her. Like, they wouldn't really have to become killers and pull off this elaborate scheme. All they'd have to do is just, like, be around her and then trap her and just let her get killed by another killer who comes in. And I thought that the movie was really good, though, until the last 30 minutes. And so it's not like we hated the movie.
No, not at all.
Even though we've just been mostly talking about criticisms, because there really isn't much else to talk about. I already did an hour-long video talking about it, so...
Yeah, and I just think that, it's up to you, but, if you want to see a good scary movie, except for the last 30 minutes, come and see it. And, if you've probably seen, more than likely, you've seen the other Scream movies. Hopefully you didn't see the last one, because it was not good. And you'll enjoy it, I think. So... And it's fun to see all those costumes. And it's just so funny because we just got through watching Children of the Corn, because we're watching all of the Children of the Corn movies.
Yeah, Safi, tomorrow you're watching the fourth one.
And if they look out the window of the subway and the door, and they stop at the station, there's these two people dressed up with a sickle, carrying a sickle, with their Children of the Corn outfits.
I thought it was cool, and honestly, the Children of the Corn series is so bad that I would settle for a Blumhouse Children of the Corn requel. Like, that's how bad the series is. Like, I bet that there's some really good things you could do with the series, but if they're the only people who care, then I would fully support seeing, like, a movie from them about Children of the Corn, because I'm looking at the movies that we have ahead in the series and I'm just thinking, like, ew. Even though David Arquette is in the fifth Children of the Corn.
That's interesting. So anyway,
what would you rate Scream 6 in terms of food?
Okay.
And then what would you rate the main two leads in terms of food? The two girls.
Marco, come on.
What would you give Tara and Samantha?
I don't know.
Samantha and Tara. What would you rate them in terms of food?
I don't know. I would rate the movie. We've already talked about this.
I think that you could be like Chunk from the Goonies and say that they're like the ice creams in the ice cream freezer with the dead body in it. What did he say? There was a chocolate eruption?
I don't know.
That's what you could do that.
No.
Why not?
Anyway, I would rank it for the other person in the apartment with us. We had a birthday dinner, and at his request, he wanted to have Italian beef. So I ordered an Italian beef. This is a Chicago sandwich. In other words, they're known for this in Chicago. And you get this special beef. It's like sliced thin, and you have like it has a sauce with it, like almost a juice. And then you have this kind of sub bun, and then you have these gross pepper things that you put on them. It's a mixture, and then of course you can put, anything else you want, onions or whatever. And it's good if you just eat it like it's meat with au juice. It's good. And then so it's okay.
It was really gross because there were no side dishes except for, I think, fries that were frozen. And it was a terrible meal because it wasn't complete. And the worst thing about a meal is being incomplete. And I did not feel that Scream 6 was incomplete. So I will say I was going to originally give the last 30 minutes the birthday cake. So I was close to picking that.
That's what I was going to do. Anyway,
yeah, I know.
So I didn't think it was that bad. It was just okay. But the since the last 30 minutes wasn't that great. It was all over the place and confusing, and it just wasn't good. They could have done so much better, and I don't know what happened to them. But anyway, the writers went missing. But anyway, we had this. He had ordered himself a birthday cake, which I don't understand why he did that. And he wanted a chocolate cake.
Two layers. Chocolate cake with vanilla frosting.
Oh no, he wanted whipped cream, whippy. They call it whippy frosting, but it's like vanilla. And anyway, but it's not. It's whippy. I think it's made with egg whites. But anyway, he got a 1-layer vanilla cake with whippy frosting, and that was not good.
And we didn't discover what this cake was until we opened up the box.
And
that's how funny it was.
To top it off, the number on the birthday cake, like, you say happy whatever number.
It was wrong.
It was wrong.
They got the number wrong.
I have never in my entire life, and I've been around for a little while.
So I had to take.
I've never seen that in my life.
I've never seen it either.
They've gotten the number wrong.
So I took a really sharp kitchen knife, like you would kill someone with in Scream 6, and I had to change the number.
And it worked out.
Pressing into it.
It worked out okay. But it didn't look exactly right. But still, it looked better than what it looked like before, which was wrong.
And so this cake was terrible. On top of that, that's not even the worst part. The worst part is that we expected to have chocolate cake because whenever you have a cake and ice cream birthday party, you have to know what type of cake it's going to be so that you can get the correct ice cream.
Right.
And we assumed that it would be chocolate cake with vanilla ice cream. We got vanilla ice cream and had to eat vanilla cake with vanilla ice cream.
Which is wrong.
Which is like...
Wrong.
Vomit.
Not
gross. So...
the last 10 years, I've been on this medication where I can't taste anything, so I have not even liked cake and ice cream. I just kind of went with it, but then I would just let them eat the rest, and I would just have the initial food, slice of cake with some ice cream, and now I could taste it. It's so nice after 10 years of not being able to taste anything. So anyway, it really was not agreeable to me either, even though I like it now. The flavors, I can actually taste them. It still was kind of bizarre and off to have a vanilla and a vanilla.
Well, it was gross.
It should have been contrasting.
Yeah.
And for instance, if we'd known it was a vanilla cake, we would have bought chocolate ice cream. And I don't know what happened.
Or caramel ice cream, or cinnamon ice cream.
Anything
or
that like a
anything,
contrast.
anything but vanilla.
Yeah.
You don't mix vanilla with vanilla.
Yeah, and that wasn't so good.
Except if you're a weirdo.
And but what happened was, since it was the person's first cake. They were new to the job. And,
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't mention that.
And that person, what they did was, because they messed up the number, which I think is even worse than the taste. The number of layers and the flavor of the cake, they messed up the number. They gave them a discount on my cake.
And then your
my
cake,
birthday followed after that.
And your cake was ruined too. And
it wasn't as bad though.
And we thought, oh no, they screwed that one up too. But then it turned out to be somebody else who screwed that up and ruined it.
Yeah.
Which we were like, oh no.
Specific. I asked for buttercream frosting.
Yeah.
Because that's what we had.
That's
we had the whippy frosting for the other cake.
And that's
right?
what good cakes are made from.
So I thought it'd be nice to have one with buttercream. And the person ordered whippy. So it was whippy frosting.
Yeah, because they were trying to make up for not having the cake that they wanted, so they basically just forced it onto Safi's cake.
Yeah, so I know this sounds stupid to just go on, but it is our review. We do, for movies, we do food reviews, and so that is our food review of the movie.
By explaining the disappointment and the grossness of how bad the cake was, it's a perfect analogy for the last part of the movie.
Right.
And I originally wanted to give the last part of the movie this cake. That's how bad it was.
He couldn't remember what we had for dinner because it was kind of forgettable.
Yeah, it was bad.
People from Chicago, they like, number one, they like this Italian beef sandwich, and number two, they like their special Chicago dogs.
The beef is good, it just wasn't a meal. Like, it wasn't a complete, 1, 2, 3 meal.
There wasn't any sides except for this crappy, undercooked fries.
I would almost say that the Italian beef was part 4, and then the birthday cake was part 5, and then my rating is part 6. So beat that, Safi. I just did 3 movies, reviewed in 1.
Okay, so anyway, tomorrow I guess I'm watching Children of the Corn 4.
You think the Core 4 will be in Children of the Corn 4?
No, because they're not old enough.
I think that there needs to be a Core 4 t-shirt.
And they're very urban. And unless this is going to be another urban movie, but I don't think it is, right?
It will not be another Urban Harvest.
Yeah. Which I don't see how they could do that anyway, because that was very unique.
No.
And, if they return to that, it really already would start off being bad, because it'd be too much of a copy of the previous movie. So, okay, everybody. So, if you like this video, audio, podcast, whatever, please give it a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers. And if you go to see this movie, why don't you tell us what you think? And what do you think of the actors? And do you did you recognize the young girl from Wednesday, show Wednesday?
You wouldn't even watch Wednesday, by the way.
No, I haven't watched Wednesday yet.
I wanted to watch it and review it.
My other son, oh, bull! He did not. He didn't want to watch it at all. And anyway, my other son has been begging me to watch Wednesday. He thinks I'd like it.
Really, Safi?
Yeah, he has been. Anyway, so goodbye, everybody.
Bye.